And then the next level is actually understanding it, not just hearing it, but understanding it. And then, of course, experientially, that's the only way that we know anything to be the truth. And so your breath is the truth. It is the one reality that you have. I'm breathing, that you can, use as your sort of measuring stick in a way. And remember Yuval Noah Harari, he spoke about Vipassana to that Indian lady, and he repeats a lot of, apparently he's done like 60 courses, including those 30-day ones, so he's a teacher now. And he said, Vipassana just means seeing reality as it is. And Sadhguru would talk about that, looking in the rearview mirror. And I don't think I really ever got it until an analogy which everyone's heard about the sunglasses. So you have so many conditioned beliefs and ideas on what you think reality is. Oh, I think that those Islamic people are crazy to be wearing a hijab or whatever, because it's all man. I've got all my own stuff to wear those glasses. But Vipassana practice and maybe any of our meditation practices allow you to remove that and just to see the reality as it is, and you just deal with that, manage that as you can. And
it makes us wonder, at least, we have so many constructs.
Yes.
We have made so many constructs about what is reality, and opinions of them, judgment of them.
Opinions, beliefs, dogmas,
they're just constructs.
Religions, political systems, everything is just...
and it never feels like it's limiting, rather it feels very empowering. This is sad, that we must have an opinion about eating vegetarian food.
Yeah.
We must have a stance.
Yeah.
And rather than having a stance where you are just like this, maybe you should be agile.
It's much more to be flexible, to be able to sort of
That's my analogy.
That's
you don't
exactly.
Fun.
Yeah, because we don't know...
We have no idea
about anyone else.
Like yesterday at work, we had some spare time. There were boys there, and one guy started talking about India and cow shit, and arranged marriage was going on. And if this was 5 years ago, it'll irk me a little bit. It'll hurt me. I might be a bit defending, but I was just sitting there having a chat, laughing about things, trying to explain them if I could, my best to the best of knowledge as to what is why, and
just to allow that.
And I can see that what a strong opinion he had.
Yes.
Opinion, as you said, it's like a lens. You don't see.
No, and in a way, and he spoke beautifully about Buddha being very compassionate and loving, and recognizing that these nasty comments from someone, or these absolute defense mechanisms people have, you almost feel sorry in a way for that person, because they're just ignorant. They don't actually know. So it's not a fault of their own in a way.
Like, for example, lifting.
They don't know.
We do lifting, and we were in the gym, and we saw so many people come to gym not do that at all. They are very genuine in the efforts of them running on treadmill.
Yeah, because they're living in ignorance, and not tainting that word with a negative or pejorative thing. It's just ignorance, not knowing the reality of it is. So it's wonderful.
So you had you asked me to remind you of something on the text that remind me of what?
It was just that thing. So the first 2 days, I felt really tired, and by that first night, actually, day one, once you've learned the initial meditation, and we're doing it all the day.
Just taught to you the first evening?
Not the talk the first evening, but day one, which you wake up. I just had this painful fatigue. So at 7 o'clock, and we met to sit up. You never put your legs out in front of the guru or teachers. But I couldn't not close my eyes. I was almost in tears. Yeah. And the first 2 nights, I thought, what's wrong with me? This is just horrible. And then by day 3, it's like your mind and your internal side just
sync
together. And remember how we talked about sometimes a train, it's just off the tracks, or it's just going a little bit, or it's a bit ahead of itself. It finally feels like the train tracks are on, the train is on it, and there's no movement of my internal self out and ahead of my
Okay.
body or vice versa.
Yeah.
I just felt,
Where it is.
here it is. And so that's the other thing. You know how sometimes when you do practice, time flies and you go, oh, that's so amazing. I know with TM that happened a lot. 20 minutes would pass by and you'd be like, oh. But with this, I took a little video. Man, oh man, time takes its time. There's never any time where I went, oh, that's gone over quickly. So 2 hours felt like 2 hours every minute. You're clocking it, and so that's the challenge. That's where I felt like I used that.
So what is
like
the position you have to sit in?
Spartan.
You can sit in any position, is that?
Yeah, you can sit in any position.
As long as the feet is not towards
as
the
long as your
bosom.
feet are.
Yeah.
So,
That's been in India for a long time.
You could, whatever works for you. So you know how a Sadhguru kind of has this idea of having that inside there. I would sit like that, but I wouldn't put my foot up there. I found if I sat like that and I had my back with a lumbar cushion, that was quite comfortable for me. But then in the first few days it got uncomfortable. I would go like that, and it would just be like, oh, it would release something, and I could finish the meditation in that position. But some people had these like little chairs where they just had their feet.
So they allow you
like
to
that.
be comfortable with some aid.
And I think they have these sub-teachers, this older couple, and they're probably 60s, an English couple, who are there to sort of just guide things, and they would say, this is not meant to be torture. So there's a fine balance between discipline, because part of this is discipline, and I guess Buddha's monks would be, there was a time when it was like, this is what you're going to do, go for 10 years and then come back to me when you're finished. And we think 10 days is kind of, so they do say don't punish yourself, but allow yourself to be pushed a little bit in terms, because that will allow you to see how transient these pains, and it just moves and changes, and so don't hold on to any of it. But 3 people left on our side, the females. So this nurse who arrived the first night when we were registering, she was funny. She was like, oh, are you medical? And somehow it came out. She goes, well, I've got my antihistamine, my Panadol, my Brufen. I'm prepared for everything. Got my charcoal tablets, because I hear that, the vegetarian food gives you a bit of wind. Anyway, so that surprised me. So she was gone by day 3, and then 2 other people went, and you never know much about
So you are listening to people, the teachers?
Only, very briefly. Okay. So you're really only listening to Goenka's talks at night. And then the teachers come in for 3 of the main sittings, and at the end of it they might say,
instructions basically.
All of the females on this side, the new females, please stay, and the others go back to your room. So you have an option to go back to your room to meditate. And you know what they're building is a new section. It's all funded by volunteers, what they call cells. It sounded really weird at first, but I guess in this tradition, it's a bit like mimicking being in a cave, completely withdrawn. So they've got these rooms that are about this big with a door on them, and it's all being air conditioned and blah blah blah. There's 150 of them, so that they call them the cells. But so in the end though, I preferred to stay in the big group whenever I could, because there's such a wonderful coherence. And on day 9,
even though you're not looking at them?
No, you're only you've got your eyes closed the whole time, but after about half an hour, this real silence, you could hear a pin drop. It's pretty cool. No one was coughing, maybe one person coughed. So that coherence felt really, really good. But on a couple of times when I had the option to go back to my room, I would. And Raj, I know we're not, you don't want to get stuck on a wonderful, because a lot of it was painful and it was really hard work. But then from time to time I would have these very wonderful experiences. And day 8 we were talking about kalapas, like subatomic particles. So the early rishis and they knew all about these subatomic particles. In fact, they were able to assess what was the smallest amount that they could put their awareness on, and they called them kalapas, I think. And then, and how we're all, everything comes down to wavelets of the field, basically. And so one part of the process, eventually you get these, they differentiate between subtle, what do they call them? Subtle generalized sensations and intense sensations. So on the 7th or 8th day, I was actually in my room for this one, and I did the process. It was about 11 o'clock, and I just felt like at some point my body was no longer solid. Like I just was this mass of vibrating things that sort of moved out from me. And then I never expected anything to follow on when I finished, but I went for my walk that day, and I felt like I was vacuumed out of my body, that I was just going through the forest without a physical body. It was so wild. And then when it came, when that thing finished, then I felt like I was just this little kind of like a midget, like this tall amongst the whole forest. So these unexpected things which were just so powerful, and this non-solid, so no longer matter. I wasn't matter for this brief time.
What day was it?
About day 7 or 8. Normally day 6 is quite a struggling day, when they said some people leave and things come to a head. And there were a few people that had a few emotional outbursts. I could hear them crying in the room, in the main room. But that day, 7th day, the snake day, or was the day after, was particularly wild, and just this feeling of no form, no matter, and as if I could do anything. I could just leave that if I wanted to, and it would all be okay. And ever since then, so I'll cut to now the very final part, because this is my dilemma. So I have one dilemma coming out of the whole thing. You know, to practice this and to immerse yourself like that is one thing, but then, like you said, to bring it into your daily life, and what can you do? So they recommend, Goenka recommends an hour of this morning and night at the least. And so that's challenging, and also because I've become much more sort of interested in Sadhguru's tradition and his Kriya Yoga and what have you. So anyway, I've been, so I get up at 4 in the morning, and I do my Vipassana from 4 to 5, and then get ready and do whatever lifting, and 10 past 4, because by the time I put water on my face. And then in the evenings I've been doing Shambhavi, and they did say it's not a great idea to sort of combine things, but I think that it's not combining them that way. It's not like doing one practice after another. And I see the Vipassana is more, it's an hour again of just stillness, so no movement of the body. And it's just diving down and working on that, you know, equanimity. And I do find every morning, I've done it this week, I have had that sense of equanimity, and then you come out of it, and during the day it flows quite well. So then I was like, oh, but should I be mixing them up? I don't know. Then I was looking at Sadhguru's programs, and he does a one called Sanyama, which is it's the kind of top echelon, and that's 8 days of silence, and it sounds very, very similar. So I wonder if that is in Sadhguru's program. Vipassana has just kind of popularized this idea of being 10 days
the thing is
silence.
The idea is very simple in all the Indian traditions. Is to find the life the way it is, and then see what austerities you can do, like challenges. What you can do,
exactly.
So you talk all the time, you think all the time, so let's just take some time off and not talk. And there is a practice called, I don't know how actually they do it, it's called pratyahara, withdrawal. So not talking is withdrawal. Being a goth is a withdrawal from society. Okay? We have these tendencies. We are happy to live in the status quo, but there is a force within us which wants to go the other way as well. I'm also still in dilemma about cold bath and Wim Hof breathing and when to do Shambhavi. I don't want to counter them because they are totally different effects. Wim Hof breathing I do very rarely. I don't do it a lot because it's very mechanical in nature, but the high it gives you is also very mechanical. Shambhavi is subtle, it will work and it'll take a long time. Although I'm not waiting for an aha moment from Shambhavi. It's just a practice you do every day. And your dilemma is very well deserved that you should have, and you'll find the answers for yourself. To me, Vipassana and keeping silence is it is not a meditation itself. It is just a practice, because in India we call it Maun Vrat.
Yeah.
So Vrat means fast in India. So when we say, oh, aaj mera vrat hai, today is my fast, which means I'm not eating today. We eat all the time, so we choose one day not to eat.
Yeah.
So it is not so much of meditation like Shambhavi is. Got it?
No,
Today
well,
I will not walk, or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been many times. I've gone to work in Logan, and the job was to do patrols.
Yeah.
For 12 hours, I didn't sit down.
Yeah, just as a practice.
Just,
yeah.
This is called tenacity.
Yeah.
And every human being has it. Indians has it because we have a tradition which is still alive.
Yeah.
You have Lent.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay? And once you have Lent, surely something should kick in you to do it a bit more often, maybe once a week, isn't it?
Right.
So Vipassana, you do what you want to do.
Well, I think I've found my kind of...
I've thought of this many times.
feels
Stillness and silence.
Yeah.
And Sadhguru also talks about it. Now, because Sadhguru also has samema, it is the same approach.
It is the same, yeah.
So you're not counter...
No, and I...
you have to just manage it the best you can, darling.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more suited to that now that I've had that, 4:30. It seems like it's the right time for stillness, even though you've slept. It seems like, for me, it feels like the right thing to do, and I certainly am able to generate that stillness, and it really is wonderful. And then Shambhavi, which is theoretically good to do at dusk anyway, that's allowed. So those two things, I just had such a yearning to kind of keep this momentum.
This is what I go through all the time. I don't want to work.
No.
And I'm already in a very lucky situation right now. I live on my own, and I just want to
just dive into it.
I want all of it.
Yeah.
And that's what brahmacharis are like, Sadhguru is saying.
Yeah.
They've tasted the ultimate. They're not settled down for family and all that.
No.
They just want to go for the whole thing.
Exactly.
But for that, the situation has to be, for a householder, it's not easy.
And the language is much the same. So he talks about, the benefit of these 10 days for our modern society is that you get to taste what it's like to be a brahmacharya. He said, even having to go to get your food, because it's all donation based, he said you're not begging for the food, but you aren't paying for it either. So in a way, when you put your bowl up in front of the server, who was generously giving of their time,
you're at their mercy.
You're just like that. Makes you very vulnerable, very humble.
Yeah, but the way I bow down to you when you were here, it's working for me. I'm making sure that my existence, my ego, is gone for a second.
Yeah.
That's what devotion means.
Yeah.
In Buddha and other saints, they will go and ask for food. They used to come to our house,
Yeah.
and we can do that, and we did that.
Yeah.
They will still say nice thing and go.
Yeah, exactly.
Diksha, they call it.
Exactly. Diksha,
So
yeah.
So there are layers and layers of such practices in India, and Maun Vrat or silence is one of them. You just find the way that you can do it. I mean, I do it many times when I drive car, I don't put music on.
Yeah, that's right.
Just drive.
Yeah.
And I've tried so many times here being silent, but that accidental thing that I told you.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just do the best our
perspective,
capabilities.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel much more now than ever before that this is a long time. This is our whole thing is just so there's
we shouldn't think it of that way at all. That
but maybe
how long will
I
that
used to.
Yeah, we all do. Oh, you start this, okay, let's see how long you'll go.
Yeah. So it's just something to kind of generate further on.
And I think you are very seasoned, well trained, because you've done TM, you've done Shambhavi, you're doing lifting, and you're not showing any signs that you want to stop.
Yeah.
So it's all about managing the workload.
And training yourself. This was the other thing. It felt like training, like you're a soldier.
That's all it is.
Love it.
This is the blessing we have.
Yeah.
The blessing that we have is that we can do repetitions, practice, and adapt and get better at it. There's a very good saying in Sanskrit in India that if you practice, even a dumb person can become intelligent. Just like a rope.
Yeah.
In India there are wells, and you pull the water out, and there's no pulley. Back in the days, you just have to go do it against the edge of which is stone. So against the edge, the rope is so soft. The rope goes so many times. After a while, it leaves a mark, an indentation.
Just ingrains.
Abhyas, it's called abhyas, practice.
Right.
Karat karat abhyas janati asura. So that is all it is. This is our this is the biggest thing we have, blessing. We can make a dog repeat itself and make him do stuff, can't we?
Yeah.
And this is our magic, that we have this cognizing that I can do it again and again, and I can do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all it is, Vipassana now for you.
Yeah.
So good.
Thank you, Raj. Oh gosh, I'm just so thrilled. Yeah, it's pretty wonderful. And and then on the last day, you clean your room. They tell you the night before, tomorrow morning after meditation, clean your room, and then put your name down for offering some other areas. So I cleaned the kitchen, mopped the floors and things, and then you get your phone back. And then and the drive back was interesting. Just some music started to play, and and people jump into that. Oh, you didn't talk for 10 days.
Don't say people. Don't worry people.
No. But when at work, everyone's like, "Oh, how did it go? How did it go without talking?" But that's not even a thing. Interestingly, it's not even a thing. Like I'm like, I didn't just.
So that was hardly ever a challenge for you.
No, and I don't think that it's meant to be.
I think by the time you go there and you're in the center,
it
just happens.
It's just that the point of the whole retreat is to become solidified in understanding and experiencing this part of you, which helps you to just not react and to just be centered and equanimous. And the not talking is just another little added skill. It's like eating light vegetarian meals is helpful, and having an environment where there's a lot of nature is helpful. And so the not talking is every bit as equal to everything else. But I think a lot of folks who maybe have just heard about it, they're like, that's the big thing, no talking. I'm like, but there's nothing to talk about.
But physical pain
anyway.
and discomfort was very challenging at that moment. And you have been given this technique too.
Just to kind of move through it. And there were some points where I did have to move, and the first few times of the 1 hour I felt a little bit like I'd let myself down, like, oh, why did I do it? Why did I move? But
which is again, reflex.
Yeah. It was just so overpowering.
I think
I had a bit of,
there are barriers within ourselves we don't even know, and we just go on acting like that because it's a reflex, and pain is one of them. I remember a long time ago now, strange way of looking at things and inspiration. So I had only started doing some yoga and breathing practices by looking at on the internet. I used to do lots of circuits, flipping tires and Tough Mudder, When you do physical stuff, you're on some seeking, I think, which is in a physical way. We had gone to a function, me and Brenda, or me and Shad, I'm not sure. And there's a nice beach there called Bell's Beach, and it's a bit of a hill you can sit and things happen, people are dancing or something like that. So,
is this in Queensland?
Rockhampton, I think it was Brenda. And there is this faith called Baha'i.
Oh yeah,
which
universal.
They're in India as well, everybody. And they were talking about Baha'i or something, and there was this guy, an Aussie guy, he was sitting cross-legged, still as, and I was at a distance, at an angle, so I was looking at him from his back, like say 3 o'clock. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. He was still as. Perhaps the strange striking thing that you saw this motionless. I think that was the day it got to me. That what is this? How can he sit like this and I can't? And referring myself to my past, in India we used to sit like that all the time to eat. And now here we are in furniture, and it's such a challenge. So that was a little thing for me. To me, when I started my Shambhavi, my own meditation practice, just by watching on the internet. And I still is the same. I say to myself, it is very much a physical thing to me right now. I'm not going to woohoo metaphysical and spiritual experiences. To me, it is just to overcome the physical side of it. It's like holding a plank.
Exactly.
So I've gotten a little further because of Shambhavi. And I've been working quite a bit on my stretching, and I think we will collaborate and we'll go to the next level. We have to. We have to get a bit more sadhvi.
Oh, for sure. But you'll surprise yourself if you ever do take the 10 days.
Yeah, I
because
read the email.
Spontaneously happens.
And I went to the website, and I knew that there was a 1-day course, but that's for people who've done it already.
I think so, because I think you have to do the 10 days.
Yeah, you have to do 10
learn
days.
it.
So if you're brand new like myself, you have to do 10 days. And I will do it. I'll let you know when and all.
Yeah, support all the way. And now, you know, for 1 hour to sit motionless, which I never thought would be possible, what the benefit of it is it then takes out the aspect of the physical body. So you don't have to, so you can do all this internal stuff, but you're not limited by, this or
You
that.
don't have the sense of having a physical body.
No, yeah.
And I think the only thing which limits you from having a sense of physical body is a sensation of pain.
Exactly.
When you have pain, you know you have a knee because it's knee.
Yeah.
So
That's
when you are, let's say, completely pain-free,
yes.
then slowly, it has happened to me,
Yeah.
slowly you will feel that, it's very cliche, that you're not in the body, you're not
Totally,
in the barriers of it.
Yeah.
When you did last time what you did to me,
Yeah.
you just said, stay still. I have still trying to figure out. And I've done it with some poses myself, where after a while, it is not as overwhelmingly painful and uncomfortable. That thing is same as if I have moved from India to Australia. I've come here and I've got used to it. Same thing. Spend a bit more time and you'll get used to it. And with added techniques of Vipassana, you can flip it.
That's right. Thank you so much for that. I'll have a look at my notes and see if there's anything.
So one challenge which I thought
dissolving, dissecting,
you would
dissolution,
that you would face, and anyone would, is the thoughts, the chatter in the mind. As soon as you're shut, your mouth is shut, but inside the noise is even more.
Terrible.
And the normal reflex is to try to stop them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is something that happens to me when I do Shambhavi, you know.
Yes.
But I've got somewhat better in observing and let it go or bringing it back. It's just a physical thing. It's really a fight, physical thing. So, what was that like?
Yeah, that was really challenging, and it almost I'll tell you about two other things. It drove me a little bit like in the first 2 days, but then again from the teaching, from an intellectual level, it was like, just don't try to force those thoughts down. Don't try anything. It will just happen, and it did. So without doing any particular thing, the less I spoke, the quieter it became.
So what I was thinking is that, you know, to fight to not think is also a reaction.
It is a reaction, absolutely. Just like the thoughts are just like a bit of pain. It's just the same thing, and reaction is to...
And you think by being silenced for 2 days, the silence will go into your mind and it will silence the thoughts as well to a certain degree?
Yeah, I think that's maybe how it worked. So that by 4 or 5, you know, if I did have thoughts, and it would usually be during activity like eating or walking, the thoughts were really relevant. It seemed like, here comes a thought. Maybe like, for example, the starry nights were so beautiful and vast, you know, and I would have a thought about constellation. So whereas at the beginning, really random, weird stuff that, is this even me just thinking these crazy
this
things?
Happens to me in
Shambhavi.
Rubbish. Abstract. And
that
is your mind struggling.
And you know what? The other thing, Raj, is you do have a lot of dreams, really vivid dreams. And a number of times I would wake up thinking, that the gong was going to go off. And I did have a watch. I just took a watch there. And I look, and I like put it up to the moonlight, like, what time is it? 2 o'clock. But a couple of times I had woken out of this. It was quite scary. I felt like I remember that time when I got a bit stoned and everything was just in my face and awful. it was like that. And you know the movies like the Avengers and stuff, where the opening introductory credits are just snapshots of this character, that character, pop art, like, you know,
abrupt.
Boom, 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 boom. And that was happening inside my head. I had no control over it. It was just images. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And I opened up the door and I went outside. And then I literally said this in my head. And I remember saying, I've lost my mind. I've lost my mind. What's going on? And this all was going. And then it dawned on me, just follow the process. Just observe it. Nothing's going wrong. Just observe it. So I just kind of focused on my breathing, and then went back to my room and sat on there, and then it dimmed down, and then I must have fallen back to sleep again. But it was so intense. I really felt like this was what it was like to be a mental person with mental health.
And think of it that from pretty much the day that you could talk, let's say you were 3 years old, all what we're doing is just talk.
Yeah.
And then if you stop, there will be these
invasiveness. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you've come out.
So it was kind of a cleansing, because then after that I felt pretty open.
Yeah. I think you have to go through all those horrible experiences. I say horrible because that's how we perceive them, but they are different experiences. Something that you're not used to, and you fight it.
That's right. So
What do you think of what you may have learned about the mind that we have, the thoughts that we have? I seem to have a little clarity a while ago. Again, I think I was with Brenda. I learned a lot from how she was. I think I did that course also. I coined it within my own mind, the mechanisms of mind, how it works. And obviously I was helped with things like videos of, you know, how they say monkey brain and all that.
I think that there's that our mind, I used to think that the mind was superfluous, and that we become so overly, you know, stuck on the brain and the mind and thoughts and analysis that what was most important was our sort of esoteric spiritual nature. But what I realize now is, of course, you know this so much more than me, is that the mind is a vital part of our human existence, but there's this kind of clear mind which does all of our critical thinking or our decision making and our action, and over the course of time we just accumulate so much
that's what mind
that the mind is no longer a pure vessel for our humanness to move through. So even if you get a moment of quietness or a short time, there's just all of this peripheral stuff that the mind is going to, grabbing for entertainment, distraction, and it's like all of this added cloaks of clothing. Underneath all of the layers of clothing is your real self, your clear self, and once you can sort of finally move and recognize that's just what it is, you remove it all, and then you're like, oh. And now that's when he talked about this razor sharp scalpel. It made so much sense to me that this is the mind, this is the essence of the mind in its pure form. It's incredibly capable of so many wondrous realizations and inventions and everything, but we just cloaked it with so much